Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Let's get started. The first thing before we even start this debate, today we have a panel of Muslims and Stoics, and we're going to discuss the topic of Islam and Stoicism, the similarities and the differences. But before we get started, just today in the morning, actually at night, we had an earthquake in Turkey. It was 7.8 points. And basically we have over 1,500 people dead. And just to support Turkey in these difficult times, Turkey and Syria will attach a URL to the donation website in the description of the
Oh,
stream. This will happen after the stream, so for now we don't look for the URL. But after the stream is over, we'll have a URL at the bottom of the YouTube video. On this note, let's get started. So today's topic is, as we discussed, Stoicism and Islam. And first, what I would like to start with is maybe explaining what Stoicism is. Stoics can explain what Stoicism is, what are the fundamental concepts, and then Muslims can explain what Islam is and what are the fundamental concepts. Halas, let's go from here. Who wants to go first for Stoics?
you guys go first with Islam.
So,
All right. Yeah, so Stoicism, man. I've seen a lot of similarities with
No,
Stoicism.
We're
Sorry.
doing explain Islam first to the
What do you mean is explain Islam? Like
So start with
explain
Islam.
Islam, the
What is?
religion?
Yes.
Just a quick summary. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
quick
Islam in a nutshell is believing submitting to one God and one God only, believing that only Allah, which means the one and only God, worshiping Him, and not equating anything except besides Him. And you devote your life to living a life that's in accordance with God. And so the concept is basically taqwa, which is God consciousness, if you roughly translate it. And so God says that everybody is equal. Everyone in front of me is equal. The only thing that differentiates people, who's better, who's not, is taqwa, which means their God consciousness. So which is basically that, let's say I'm going to the store and I can buy different types of meat, but then I'm quite restrict or careful about what I put into my mouth. And so I would only eat halal. So that's also God consciousness, always being aware that God is always watching. And so whatever you behave, live as, is always in accordance with that. And so easier said than done, but yeah. So we strive to increase that awareness through prayer, through living life daily.
And let's keep it to a minute, those explanations. And
Mr. Hall, go for it. Or should we switch?
Let's switch. So let's have 1 minute, 1 minute.
So what's the format? So 1 minute each?
Yeah, I think it's better because then people go on a long discussion. And
okay.
If we have
okay, cool.
And then Artie, I guess just say what I don't say. And feel free to look up stuff or whatever. But Stoicism is originated in ancient Greece and was founded by Zeno. And basically over the centuries has changed and has been added onto by different philosophers. And it's basically a philosophy that is all about teaching self-reliance, being detached from material possessions, and having a rational perspective in the face of adversity. So that's basically it. Go ahead, Mr. Halal, I guess.
So Islam is quite simple. It's essentially Tawheed, which is believing in one God. So you believe in one God and nothing else is worthy of worship. And tawakkul, which is a big part of Islam, is basically you understand that everything in life is a will of God, and you submit to that, right? So those are essentially the basic Islamic concepts. Tawheed, there's one God worthy of worship, and tawakkul. Also, there is a concept of ihsan, which is you live your life as if you can see God, knowing that at every single moment you live it, He can see you. So that's it. That's Islam for you guys.
Yeah, so even
Artie?
just right away, Artie, yeah, hey guys, welcome. Just even from that definition right there, Mr. Halal, there's a lot of similarities, right? from between Stoicism and Muslims. Although I will say that
We'll keep the similarities until later. Just
yeah, for sure.
give us a
For sure, yeah. So basically, the main principles that I jotted down for Stoicism would be, you have power over your mind, not outside of, not outside events. So we should only essentially rationalize or think or dwell on subjects that we can actually manipulate. Um, Stoicism is a mindset that's based on a set of observations about essentially how the mind works within the world. The Stoics argued that your thoughts and beliefs create the world you inhabit, not external circumstances, right? And so you ought to take responsibility. It's a practice of accountability, gratitude, virtuism, temperance, patience. Humility is a big one mentioned as well. Charity, altruism. Really, it's a practice of good by the definition, really. So yeah.
So, what I would like you guys to help me understand, and I was obviously I'm not an expert on Stoicism, but before coming to this session, I was doing some research trying to understand who the main figures are, and it looks like Zeno and Marcus Aurelius are the main figures, and at least, well, the main advocates for Stoicism. And one of the things I noticed is I literally just listened to the first 35-40 minutes audiobook of meditation by Marcus Aurelius, but even that was enough to understand that he clearly is a polytheist, and that polytheistic belief is a big part of his life. What I'm trying to understand is, what role does God play in Stoicism, and is God necessary for Stoicism? And if not, then why? And how is it different to other religions, I guess?
Can I take this one?
yeah. Go ahead. I'll add on after.
For sure, sweet. Yeah, so Stoicism doesn't, it's more of a way of life than a religion, right? It's a philosophy. So, we can work together in that sense. There's Stoic Muslims, right? And if anything, I would argue that it only helps them achieve their faith. And there's Buddhism and Stoicism would be the most similar, but there's Stoic Buddhists as well, which help them achieve nirvana in their own religion, right? Because it only brings you closer to God, essentially.
Okay. So to answer your question also about so much reference to God in a lot of the Stoic texts from the past. So why there was so much mention of God is because they needed a way to explain the world. Stoicism has nothing to do with gods. Like Artie said, it's all about like your mind and what you can change in yourself to become a better person and to affect the world in a positive way, and to not let the outside world kind of bring you down. It's like basically a protection, like a barrier that you can use to make your life and your purpose kind of protected and like not isolated, but like so you're going through life in a way that's provides you a code of protection. But there has been a lot of mention about God, and it isn't in a way where it's like we pray to that God or anything like that. It's more of a way to explain things. And as the Stoic philosophers have come and gone, more and more modern Stoicism is completely devoid of God itself. So in modern Stoicism, the most recent philosopher would be Ryan Holiday, and he is completely for Stoicism being a way of life and a philosophy to lead your life and to live a more successful and beneficial life.
Okay, so that's interesting, right? So here's where I want to jump in, because what was that gentleman's name? Holiday? What's his first name?
Ryan Holiday.
Ryan Holiday. So I don't know much about him, but just even by that definition, it looks like his understanding of what Stoicism is quite different to what Marcus Aurelius believed in. And if you look at,
Yeah.
for instance, at meditation, Marcus Aurelius, a couple of the key concepts I grasped from just the beginning, if one quarter of the book, even the concepts you grasp from that are he believed that, well, he was a polytheist, right? So his belief is a bit different to me and Rasal, a little bit in that sense, because we're monotheists. But as a polytheist, he believed that gods play a role in human affairs, and they put them on the path of righteousness. And it's a human needs to be on the path of gods rather than the path of the demon. And the demons are described in the meditations as well, which is quite interesting because Marcus Aurelius wasn't a Christian, wasn't Jewish, he was a Roman polytheist. But the concept of demons is described, and battling those demons is described, and is described as a as kind of opposing force to the force of gods, who seem to be, at least in his understanding, pushing for righteousness. And he describes his mother as a pious woman, for example, Aurelius, right? And he piety is described as one of the qualities that he seems as good. I don't know if necessarily it makes the Stoic quality, but my understanding is Marcus Aurelius embraces what Stoicism is. This man clearly has a concept of God ingrained in his beliefs. So how can then I'm just trying to understand, how can this gentleman Holiday, how can he decouple this from Stoicism and say, okay, we're gonna
Artie,
still
if you want to
Stoicism?
give.
One more thing before RT
Yeah.
answers. So Ryan Holiday, I've read some of his work, and before he went into Stoicism, he was into marketing, and he wrote a book, Trust Me, I'm Lying. So I'm familiar with Ryan Holiday before he came into Stoicism, and love the guy. What he's done quite remarkably is that he's made Stoicism accessible to so many people, religious
Yeah.
or non-religious. So yeah, RT, go for it.
Cheers. Thank you, Salah. Yeah, so Mr. Halal, to directly answer your question, basically the foundation of Stoic ethics is basically that the good lies in the state of the soul itself, right? So we're not to say that we are God, but you know how in most religions the common belief is that we are all God's children in a sense, right? In a sense, right? Like the maker, that's a pretty common and broad term, right?
Yeah, like,
So
oh, son of Adam, and oh, son of, so and so.
exactly, yeah. So like where did we all come from? That was the
Yeah.
origin of religion itself, right? So the Stoic principles essentially teach you to embrace that, right? Embrace the fact that we have that little bit of magic in us that sets us apart and makes us even worthy of worshiping some sort of God. And that can be applied to religious people. For instance, like me and Marco, he's an atheist, right? From what I, right?
Agnostic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Agnostic, bro.
agnostic. Sorry, my bad. And I'm like self-defined spiritual, right? And we can both embrace the beauty and benefits of Stoicism, right? And another point I wanted to just add is, oh, it left me. Monkey brain. But yeah,
Okay.
It's all
that's
good.
basically it.
I'll jump in. So basically, how I kind of look at it in Stoicism, the modern Stoicism, I look at it being very devoid of religion,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
older Stoicism being very much so has roots in religious context, polytheism or monotheism. Well, actually, just polytheism, because monotheism didn't actually even exist, I don't think, at the time that, because first of all, Stoicism is actually much older than Islam. So that's one thing. So Islam could have actually even taken some things away from, not away, but could have taken some things from Stoicism. But another thing to look at is that it's evolved over the years into a much more modern way of life. And that's really what kind of draws me to it. And that's why religion, to the theistic and the Abrahamic religions, don't really attract me to them, is because Stoicism has changed to reflect our world, while it looks like the other religions have not. So
So can I ask something? Why do you see the fact that the philosophy can change over time as a good thing?
May I?
yeah, of course, yeah.
I see this as a phenomenal thing because,
Hmm.
for instance, I took philosophy in in first year in university, right? And I absolutely love that subject. I read Plato's
Hmm.
Republic, did crazy essays on it, right? And that's the form of stoicism I embrace that works for me personally. But this is a form of stoicism. That's the nice thing about philosophy versus religion. It can change, right?
Hmm.
And it can adapt. And it has with the progression of society. It has changed and it's adapted into all kinds of new things. And basically anyone around the spectrum of life can embrace it. Yeah.
I don't think you fully
Amazing.
believe in
Yeah.
that, though, Artie, and knowing you,
Sorry?
right? I don't think you fully believe in that. That's good that we're changing in all directions
No.
nowadays,
Oh, no, no.
right?
But for Stoicism in particular,
Yeah.
right? It's nice because many people can. Oh God, no. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Tradition.
yeah, yeah. So
Tradition.
my question is then, is Stoicism then just a philosophy for achieving inner strengths, or is that a philosophy that has like, is that your moral perspective on life, or is it just a separate
It's a
thing?
way of living. It's a way of
Yeah.
going about taking on life.
So
Yeah.
Exactly.
what's
Yeah.
the perspective of Stoicism? I'll make it very clear, right? Islam gives me perspectives on everything, literally everything. We're going from marriage to what I think about 5-year-olds being offered to change their gender. So I'm just very curious in modern day context, and I'm very outspoken about it. I don't mind speaking about this. I think this is something that needs to be discussed. What's the perspective of Stoicism on, let's say, 5-year-olds in primary schools today in some countries in North America being approached, not some countries, in some states in North America being approached in primary school and being told that they can change their gender and they can, like, what's the moral perspective on that? Or what's for instance a moral perspective of Stoicism on zoophilia? Um, is there
Zoophilia? What's zoophilia?
bestiality? Sorry,
Oh,
bestiality.
bestiality.
Yeah, like things that we
It
see. A majority of people see those things as wrong even nowadays.
Stoicism really reinforces and just like natural tradition, right? For whatever we're meant to be doing as humans, essentially, right? Like virtue,
Hmm.
essentially. It's whatever is virtuous to do in that instance, right? And
Yeah.
that I feel like that there's like it's an old practice realistically that's not been adapted to the craziness of the modern world. So it's a
Hmm.
little bit of a difficult question you're asking there, my friend, I would say.
So,
And also, it's so Islam is a hive mind, right?
Hmm.
So Islam, if I was Muslim and like another 100 Muslims, everybody would start kind of congregating and really shifting their views to fit their own.
What do you
Like,
mean?
sorry,
Can you elaborate?
so Muslims all kind of start believing in the same thing, right? While Stoics have their own kind of outlook on life and can have different conflicting even um, conflicting conflicting values with amongst each other. So it is completely normal because we don't have mosques. We don't have ways that we kind of like build a community with each other and kind of have something like that. We instead have just virtues, acceptance, emotional control, personal responsibility, reason. So
Yeah,
reason would
it's
be one of the things that we would use, and we would say that
mhm.
no, since bestiality, obviously an animal can't consent. We would not like personally. That's my
There's more to it than
stoicism.
that.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
like my
yeah.
personal stoicism, like so the thing about Islam and stoicism is like my stoicism could be a lot different than Artie's because it is something where you interpret it and it's not a hive mind where everybody starts believing the same thing. Everybody is taught to actually, one of the key pillars of stoicism is actually to think for yourself as well. So that's really important. So
Okay.
it doesn't tell you everything. It doesn't have the solution for everything, but it tells you to think critically, think for yourself, and have virtue.
So wouldn't you say that a paradigm that offers more solutions to the different dimensions of life is a better paradigm then?
Not necessarily, because
Why
those
not?
solutions are too rigid. So
For
especially for
example?
a book that is like thousands of years old, how can you expect a book that is written thousands of years ago to apply to modern day life? You need
Yeah,
a
that's
you
go
need a teaching that is flexible so it can adapt. And that I don't think Islam has, while
okay.
Stoicism does.
Okay, so let me reply. Um, so 1,000 years, that's more about 1,400 to 1,500 years, yeah? In the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. So you saying that it's old, it's from your time frame in the cosmic scale, it's nothing. So it's not really old if you put the human lifespan together and everything. It's
Well,
not that old.
well,
One second.
yeah.
Let me finish. Let me finish. And the second thing is that what was the second thing you said? was that it's too rigid. The
flexibility, rigid.
solutions that you offer are too rigid. So see, not everything is rigid. Not everything is rigid. So it isn't as black and white as people think. So a lot of people here in the West have this fear of Sharia, that, oh my God, if more Muslims come in, they're gonna start stoning our women, and
It's
chopping
because
their
of
hands off.
rigidity. The rigidity.
No. So
that's what they're scared of. Yeah.
Yeah, they're scared because they're being sold that narrative, and there's no truth in that, So it's not like that, and there are no countries on the planet right now which practice Sharia. It's just like it's not a thing. And plus, if you're living in a country where you're not in the population or in the majority or anything, and so you can't practice the Sharia. So the Sharia is superseded by the constitution. So it's an invalid concern. A lot of people who basically spread this thing around, they have no idea what they're talking about. And plus, when you just talking about the capital punishments and all those things, but then that's just one pixel in the whole picture, right? So the whole Sharia and everything, it also talks about compassion, the legal system, forgiveness, and purity, and all those things. The books in Sharia start from those things about the character and morality and those things. So those are the conversations about Sharia and the rigidity of Islam are devoid of the good things about it. So you need to be critical properly. But then the second thing is that if you travel in like different parts of the Muslim world, you would find different versions of Islam. And even in one society, like people have very opposing views. The only thing that unites us is our Qibla and our belief that there's only one God and nobody else is worthy of worship. And Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is his last messenger. So that's our uniting thing. But other than that, there are many things that we disagree on and have been having these intellectual debates for centuries.
Sorry, I gotta jump in here real quick.
Yeah,
What do
go
you mean
ahead.
there are many things we disagree on? We agree on the fundamental rights and wrongs and righteousness.
Yeah, of course. But
Yeah.
then,
The Quran, no one ever denies Quran. Like we all agree on Quran, no matter which sect it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the fundamentals most people agree on, but then it's not like the hive mind would succumb to one sort of thinking. So there's a lot of nuance. There's like Salafis, Asharis, and so it's the Deobandis, and it's huge. So the
Okay.
complexity in that world, it's too much.
Let's give
Here,
some.
I have a question for you guys, for
Right.
you Islamic folk here. So, would you rather be told exactly how to do something, like this is right, this is wrong, this is hot, this is cold, or would you rather be like, hey, this is how you think, and use this to decide yourself? So, is that a stove? Is it on? It's going to be hot. Right, and that's what I think Stoicism brings to the table, is a way of reasoning that is so flexible and so powerful that just transcends something like Islam, which is very black and white. Islam says yes, no, while in Stoicism it's very fluid. It says, hey, is this rational? Is this what you're doing is rational? Is it virtuous? Is it following ethical principles?
Okay, 1 second. What's virtuous? What's virtuous?
I don't know. If you're a good human, you should know deep down what virtuous is, right?
Having a high moral standard.
Let's get into this.
Very solid.
You don't have morality if you don't have a standard. So why is rape wrong? So a lot of people say that, okay, let's get into the gray areas, shall we? A lot of people say that, okay, I was born gay, and then what if someone says, well, I just love to,
Let's use killing as an example. Let's use killing.
Okay,
yeah.
Before you get canceled, all right?
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, let's use.
So somebody is born a killer.
Okay.
Why is that wrong?
Who's born a killer? Stoicism teaches you to look within you to solve the problem, essentially, right? It takes an immense amount of self-accountability. Nobody is born a killer. Nobody is born with poor morals. You don't come out of the womb.
So you're saying people...
it teaches
so people
No, yeah,
Go
that's
ahead,
all
please
that
continue.
all comes from inner
it,
issues essentially, right? If somebody was to insult me even, right? That's a moral wrong. I think we can all agree. If some random person came to insult me, that's a moral wrong, okay? And Stoicism teaches me essentially to embrace the fact that they're saying that to me only from a place of inner insecurity and something is within themselves. They have their own demons, what I like to call, but I guess modern Stoicism would just call unvirtuous or bad habits, whatever. That
Unethical, yeah,
yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever.
It
But
tells you
look,
to
see
put on a
the
face in the face
if
of danger,
just a quick
essentially.
result, just real quick, if you got to
Yeah.
go
use a
ahead.
sexuality example, use either pedophilia or bestiality,
I
where
was using that.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
not
that's
killing? Killing is perfectly.
no, you can use bestiality
Everything is
example. I think
everything.
we
We
It's the
can
not
same
talk
thing.
about
I think
anything.
that
We're
there's a
just
good common
having
agreement that it's wrong,
we're
among
So
having an intellectual discussion. We're just talking about things. None of us practice those things, so I think we're all right. And
Regardless,
we
for the
so
assume
audience,
we
for the
assume we
audience and
assume our
everyone.
audience has some caliber, so that's why they're listening to four guys talk. So if
Oh
they're
man.
low IQ, then please leave. It's all right. We're
so okay.
having yeah.
Stoicism is
No, but
for.
one second.
Okay,
Let
go
me
ahead.
reply to RT. So RT said that okay, if the other person is saying something bad to me, they might be, it might stem from their insecurity or whatever. But then, what if that person thinks what they're doing is virtuous for them?
Then they need to look deeper and
Yeah,
be,
yeah. They look
yeah.
deeper. They
No,
went
they
deeper,
don't.
and then
By
bro,
Stoic practices, no, they don't.
I've
Yeah.
met
That's
people.
you're
I've met
asking me what
people.
they're teaching, right? And then I'm
No,
telling you right now. So this by Stoic
It,
principles,
yeah.
they're telling you to essentially just dig deeper until you become the true you, traditional you, the actual you, who you're
so here,
supposed to
Yeah,
be.
wait.
bro.
Also in Marcus
Go ahead.
Aurelius Meditations, it actually does say that we should extend kindness and compassion for all living creatures, including other human beings. So that person is not practicing Stoicism if they are doing what they're doing. Basically, they're not being a Stoic.
so question I have a couple questions. I want to divert from this thing of this.
Stoicism is like justice, avoiding cruelty, rationality, reason. So it doesn't tell you black and white what to do in any given moment, but it gives you the tools to approach any situation in a rational and reasonable way.
So I've there was a couple minutes ago you mentioned something that Islam is black and white, and I
Mhm.
think that's a very superficial understanding of Islam or what Islam is.
Mhm.
I think Islam is balance. I think there are cases when it is black and white, and there are cases when it's open to for people's own decisions, right? But I'll tell you this, right? Like, and this is just my perspective on this. You asked me what I would prefer, and I would prefer a balanced approach because I think certain things I shouldn't be thinking every single decision I make through, right? That's not how you live life. The life is very short, and there are a lot of things happening in life, and our ancestors, they also had to survive, right? They had to survive in a very dangerous environment. So in an environment like that, when you need to make decisions fast, I don't want to spend hours trying to go weigh things. Is this right? Is this wrong? No, this is wrong for me. I'm not going to engage in this. If you want to engage in this, engage in it. For example, right? um, I believe drinking alcohol is wrong. If you want to drink alcohol, power to you. Drink as much as you want. I refuse to drink alcohol. I'm a Muslim. I don't spend now. Obviously, I do have justifications nowadays why I don't do it. But in reality, even if I didn't have justifications why I don't drink alcohol, and I just would not drink it because God said so, I would be just fine. My life would be just fine. The reality of Islam is, even if you don't think about it too much. You just kind of like accept the general rules, right? The general mainstream. We're talking about mainstream general Islam. We're not talking about certain sects that deviate significantly. We're talking about mainstream. 90% people follow Islam. That general fundamentals. If you follow all of them, you're gonna have just a very standard, very structured life that is more stress free and more sustainable. You're not gonna do certain things that are gonna harm you too much, right? You're not gonna engage in, let's say, extreme amount of casual sex and end up with. And again, if you want to have casual sex, part two. I'm no judge to nobody. I'm just talking about my own personal perspective of how I live my life. You know, the person not gonna get engaged in too much casual sex. They're not gonna have issues with STDs as much. They're not gonna have issues with you know, dealing with an unwanted child. They're not going to have issues with maybe certain depression. They can be sex related, which happens. You guys can Google it and learn about it. And you know, I think it
Self-worth.
self-worth, yeah, you know, it's a yeah. So it's a very sustainable life in my view. So I think it simplifies life. And here's another thing before we even finish. um I don't think most people want to spend their time thinking too much, right? Like, let's be honest, like most people kind of just live life. So for
Thinking's
them,
difficult.
yeah, so for them to have, like, do you really think, like, and again, I think everyone is equal in the eyes of God, but at the same time, let's just be honest, right? If you look at IQ as a spectrum, not everyone is super intelligent where they can when they can put everything on a scale. And I'm not by any means saying religion is for non-intelligent people. Obviously, I don't call myself a non-intelligent individual. Clearly, I'm religious, but I'm just saying it makes things easier for people to make decisions. Whereas I feel like I'll tell you this. This is my opinion, right? I think a very intelligent individual can potentially be an atheist and live a sustainable life, but a very non-intelligent individual, and I'm going to quote Jordan Peterson here, he or she is better off being religious than not, because they're going to find themselves in tons of trouble.
Yeah, I agree with
So
that
So,
one
one.
one go ahead, Marco.
if I could just kind of say a little bit more about that alcohol comment, the sex comment, the casual sex comment, and everything like that. So, again, it just comes down to what you want in life. If you want some kind of ideology to tell you exactly yes or no, if you need that kind of hand holding, if you can't think for yourself in a responsible and critical and rational way, then Islam, like you pointed out, seems like a very good option. But if you do have the ability to make rational decisions and really take into and really strive for something even greater, right? Where you are able to choose your own life's path. And like if you do want to have alcohol, have it, but in a rational, respectable way. You're not hurting anybody else. You're not hurting yourself. It's only 1 or 2 drinks. You're having it in the company of friends. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to have casual sex, no problem with that. As long as you tell your partner, hey, I'm in this for casual sex, no problem with that. Just rational, respectable, ethical. So I do agree with you that it is Islam is a much more hand-holding religion, much more hand-holding ideology, where it basically says yes, no, don't do. But the problems with that is also it's very hard to grow as a person with something like that, because you're not making those decisions. You're not having the willpower. You're not building the discipline. With Stoicism, you're building all these things, and you're coming to a conclusion yourself, becoming a more powerful human being in the process.
Okay, so here's what I want to jump in, right?
Artie has a point, just real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I hate interrupting over you guys. So I just want to make it clear that, just to add on, the Stoics, they never rejected worldly pleasures. You know, they rejected the reckless ones, the dangerous,
Exactly. Too much drinking.
and the ephemeral ones. Essentially, they were not afraid of joy, and if anything, they took joy and appreciated it all the extra because of the discipline, right?
Yes.
Their exact stance, traditional Stoics, because realistically, anyways, that's another discussion. They typically drank wine, you know, with uh, the Greek god. I forget exactly the name, but I think it was Diogenes, right? Maybe the god of wine. Anyways, they did drink wine based off of
Somebody
like their
Google it. Jamie, pull it
old
up.
beliefs, but they never allowed themselves to get drunk. And I have a quote right here. At times we ought to drink even to intoxication, not as to drown, but merely to dip ourselves in wine. For wine washes away troubles and dislodges them from the depths of the mind and acts as a remedy to sorrow as it does to some diseases, right? So for them, it was like that. For me personally, I'm fully sober, but I can still at least embrace the other,
So,
concepts.
RT, do you think drinking can be a slippery slope?
Yeah, of course, man. Like you're talking to a Russian, right? Of course, man. Yeah, no,
So,
there's. There's a reason that I'm abstinent, right? And it also ties in with my Stoic principles of
Yeah.
discipline and yeah.
Yeah.
So something that Marco mentioned, right? He's like, okay, if you want to do this, then do this, and this is okay, and that is okay, and it sounds like okay, there's desire, and then there's justification. And here's
Hmm.
a, I remember something. I was, I think, 17 or 16, and I was watching my favorite movie. I like Gladiator. I don't know if you guys watch Gladiator. It's my favorite movie.
Second movie.
Yeah, I think it's the best movie of all time, in my opinion. I love
I
that movie.
love it. I love it.
Yeah. So I remember I was watching Gladiator, and this Roman emperor, the guy that replaced the Roman emperor, that ended up, killing the gladiator's, wife and a kid. Well, I guess I spoiled the movie for people that didn't watch it. But I remember my dad was sitting next to me, and I was saying, how can somebody be so horrible and like such a bad person? And my dad said something profound that to this day is in my mind. He said, "Do you really think they think they're horrible people? No, they justify every single decision they make." And that's something that kind of just stuck in my mind. That if you don't really have clear-cut boundaries, that this is the line I will never cross, no matter what, then you are likely to justify under pressure. And I'm going to use a terrible example, but this is an example that Jordan Peterson covered a lot. He said in Nazi Germany, it's horrific what Nazis were doing to the Jews, and the justification for doing that is pretty insane. But they just got desensitized, and because everyone was doing it, they were pushing their boundaries further and further and further, trying to justify themselves that what they're doing is not as bad as they think. Whereas with Islam, I think it just offers a very clear-cut line that you don't cross this line. I don't care what it is. Well, at least you're not supposed to. It's wrong, and it adds an additional layer of protection. Whereas in let's say Stoicism, the whole belief is based on kind of you, like it sounds like your own will.
Yeah.
Whereas in
Personal
Islam,
responsibility. Yeah.
there's a layer of protection. I call it layer of protection, but it's basically God. So basically, even if I want something, and even if my will breaks, I think of God at the same time. So it's almost like sometimes when I speak to my friends, I'm like, well, you guys are all my friends, but some other friends, I have other friends too. So I say, how can I rely on myself? Because I don't control my own next breath, but I can rely on God. And that gives that additional layer of strength to me, and I think to many religious people as well. So what does Stoicism offer that can match that level of accountability that religion
One
has?
quick thing.
Go ahead.
Just
Yeah.
imagine the two together, bro, right? So like gratitude is taught for me from Stoic principles, right? I start when I wake up, I start every single day with just at least sometimes I write it, but at least I voice it, 10 minimum things, gratitude that I'm
Affirmations.
thankful for. No, no, not affirmations, man. Those are something else, but just things I'm thankful for. Just number one is always thank you for letting me breathe today, right? Because every day
Mhm.
we have to be like practicing gratitude, but who am I saying that to? I'm speaking to God, right? So that's my own personal God. So
Can,
having the two together makes you
one small
strong.
thing. Can we
Yeah.
share a really cool thing? So it's in Arabic. It's called Alhamdulillah, and then you
Mhm.
can look into like what it means, and then it's basically what you just described. It sums that into one word, one
Praise be to
phrase.
God.
Praise be
Mm.
to God, or all praise belongs to God.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's like a recursive thing that when you say Alhamdulillah, then you say Alhamdulillah again because like you didn't deserve to utter those words, but then you had the option to say that and you got good deeds for
I
that.
think RT is a Muslim without even knowing it.
Alhamdulillah, my friend. Alhamdulillah.
Here,
Bro,
let me
can I
let me jump in. I just want to
go
rebut.
for it, bro? Go for it.
So, and then I'll give it to you
After
right
you,
after.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Go for
So,
it.
I'd like to just give a hypothetical here. Okay. So, there's a person who is Islamic, and then there's a person who is Stoic, right? From a young age, they were brought up in these two different ideologies.
Uh-huh.
They are around teenage, maybe young adults. The thing about Islam is it teaches it's ideology that teaches a one truth without questioning or critical examination.
No, the
While
last part is
Stoicism,
wrong.
wait, and then Stoicism teaches a flexible, adaptable ideology where you're taught to think for yourself. So they're both brought up from age zero with each respective ideology. When they grow up to be young adults, who will be a more adaptable person in society a more successful person in society. And I would bet the Stoic person, because they
Yes, because your
have been
assumptions are wrong.
using they've been using critical thinking their entire lives, while Islam, the Islamic person, has been taught not to question, not to critically examine the text. It is only to follow the text. So
I
go ahead.
agree, I agree with you, Marco, and I would, if I was answering your question, I would reply that the Stoic would have a better outcome. And
Okay,
I would,
thank you, thank
yeah,
you.
and the reason being because the assumptions that you've laid out, they're not what the evidence says, and
Okay.
that's why I would invite you to read the Quran, because like the Quran, if you come out with a scientific theory, a hypothesis, yeah, a hypothesis needs a falsifiable test, yes, so that you can disprove it. You can disprove it. You can't just make claims that nobody can challenge, because otherwise, then what's the point? So Quran has an open challenge since it revealed, and it invites people to ask questions, to think, it calls people to those who think, those who believe, those who question. So it what you're doing right now, you're doing what the Quran tells you to do, to question and not just take it for a face value. So
The
you
Quran
should,
says to question it. The
yeah,
Quran
bro,
says to
you
question it.
should,
Yeah, it
yeah,
actually.
bro, literally, you should attack it as much as you can.
It says
So
if you're truthful, then bring a book better than this.
does it
Or
say
then it
you can
goes
kill
down
people?
even worse. No, where did it say that
Well,
you
that's a
can
problem
kill
right
people?
there.
Say what? Sorry, say what?
That's a problem right there.
Can you
How?
say it again? I missed it.
Because you should be able to kill somebody. Let's say somebody jumps
Well,
in your
sorry.
house,
What happened?
kills your parents, and you can ethically kill them,
Yeah, you
right?
can
Because
kill
they
them.
just
Yeah,
Yes,
killed your
yeah.
parents.
Then
And so how
that's
about
law.
that?
That's law.
Stoicism is much more complex because it looks at every situation as a different scenario, and it can lay out things that a book just cannot, because there's an infinite amount of possibilities. And Stoicism teaches you to think critically and reasonably in every situation.
What if this is a book that is from God?
What is?
one second, Anar, 1 second. It's not just black and white that you kill my parents, I kill you. No, no, bro. Prophet Muhammad SAW forgive the murderers of his parents.
Yeah, no.
So there's forgiveness in the religion, and so there are different ways. So forgiveness is the better option, but then there is blood for blood. Like we're not gonna offer the other cheek.
So Stoicism essentially is all about your social duty. If it serves the well-being of your social duty, then it is better to do so, right? So if that
Uh-huh.
means, you know, deleting somebody from existence, that means that. Let me derive a text from just their practice or their viewing on suicide. And this is where Stoicism will differ from
Okay.
religion, right? The
Mhm,
Stoics, they accepted that suicide was permissible for the wise
mhm.
person in circumstances that might prevent them from living a virtuous life. That ties back into social
Nice.
duty that I mentioned, right? Such as if they fell victim to disease or severe pain, or
Mhm.
that also includes mental disease, right? But otherwise, suicide would be seen as your rejection of one's social duty. So you're in
Yeah.
order, you live to serve, essentially, right? For
Mhm.
example, Plutarch reports that accepting life under tyranny would have compromised Cato's self consistency as a Stoic and impaired his freedom to make the honorable moral choices, right? And that, so he killed a competitor, right? So those are the old traditional Stoic teachings.
That's
The
awesome. That's a great example, actually, of the flexibility
Yeah.
of Stoicism, and I love that. Yeah, that's what really draws me into it, because I don't like being told black and white what to do all the
Mhm.
time. For it's like, you know what I mean? It
Bro,
just
it's
feels.
Batman the religion. Like,
sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Batman
Um,
the
like
religion.
how can you dislike it?
Yeah, yeah.
so let me ask you this, guys. Then, right? So, if there is such thing as truth in this universe,
Mm,
then there can only be one truth, which means for every action,
Mhm.
if there is such thing as God, and if there is such thing as higher power, and if there is such thing as truth in this universe,
mhm.
then for every action there can only be one correct reaction.
No.
Your
I
truth,
disagree with that.
different angles,
No,
different
but like,
Exactly.
perspectives.
but like, we're, for every
We all
action in a
perceive the same greatness. We all perceive the same greatness from a different lens.
Yeah. So there could be multiple truths, and my truth could be different than Artie's truth.
Do you think that
As long as it's
is?
a virtuous one.
Do you
Yeah.
think that is the reason why Stoics to this day don't have communities?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
We've always been nomads. We've never, yeah.
yeah.
Except we don't
So
seek to,
that's
yeah.
the problem. You know,
It's a personal ideology, a personal philosophy that you use to guide your life
yeah.
and to have a virtuous
So
life.
that's the problem. So you guys don't have much to be honest, and I have tremendous respect. And I'm not saying it out of place of disrespect. You know, Artie knows how much I respect him, and Mark, I respect you too, man. I'm just
Likewise.
being very, very honest here.
Of course, of
This is
course.
the reason why most people would not join Stoicism. Because for many people, the community, let that be Christian community or Jewish or even let's look at Jewish community. Is I think it's as strong as Islamic. Obviously, they will say it's stronger, but I think it's extremely strong community. And people, I know people who don't even believe in God who go to synagogue just so that they have, they're in the presence of the Jewish community. So I think the fact that they agree to sacrifice certain elements of that flexibility is what enables them to bond over a common ground of agreements that doesn't exist in Stoicism, which is why you don't really have big communities. In Islam, it's a pretty big community. It's
Hmm.
pretty big community with certain amount of reliance. I can meet a Muslim in any country, and if they're practicing Muslim, I have a higher level of trust for them. I don't see necessarily the same thing in Stoics. I don't like.
Yeah, no,
Have you guys ever? Yeah.
you're definitely entirely correct. It's a bit of a flaw, if you will, right? But it's also a part of the mentality. I mean, it's like we don't have much need, right? It's almost like Buddhism in the sense that where you really aren't like there's no need for us to seek each other or have too much worship on our material possessions, things like that, right? So it's yeah, although it would be great in order just to have more stoics around, essentially, that would be the only reason why we would even want to meet up in the first place, in order to serve the justice and like spread the message, right?
So
So, can I jump in real quick? So, s social division, okay? The thing that you said about
Yeah.
community is also a pro and a con, actually. So, how many sects of Islam are there,
so
and
before we go
or do they hate each other?
Okay,
In
before we jump in
Stoicism,
there.
and also, isn't it a flaw for you to see a Muslim and not rationally and reasonably think, hey, is this person a good person, and just immediately trust them? With Artie, let's say I meet
I'll
another
agree on
Stoic.
that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right. So
Yeah.
let's say I meet a Stoic, and this guy's living out of his car, and he's drinking all the time, doing drugs all the time, and he did some bad stuff, and I'm like, whoa, I'm not going to trust this person. But you, all of a sudden, this guy is a Muslim, and you come up to him, oh, I trust you so much, but this person is a bad person,
So
and you're looking unreasonably at him. That was obviously a hyperbole, right? Obviously, but
Yeah. Okay.
you're looking at this person and being like, oh, I trust you because you're of my faith, but you're not thinking reasonably. You're not thinking critically. This person is obviously like, look at this person, right? Just hyperbole again, right?
So, okay, I'll respond to this with a little bit of anecdotal experience, right? But for 21 years of my life, I was non-religious and I was religiously unaffiliated, and I never had really as much of close friendships. I felt before I was 21. I'll be honest, I had friends, but I never had close friendships. Ever since my conversion to Islam, I got brotherhood. Like I
Oh
have
yeah.
literal brothers, and I
Mm.
can count. It's a big number now. Like I have guys that I can call, dude. I'm in trouble. I need right now money, 5K, 10K, right now,
Yo, Muslim friends would die for you, bro.
bro. Like I know I can call Risalat. He'll give me his last money.
No, that's huge, man. That's absolutely huge, and
That's
it
huge.
also serves like not even that, just the fact that you have a community is huge in itself. I always
It's
say that
huge, yeah.
community is immunity, man, in a sense, right? And you're also serving the
I'll
justice,
give you an
like
example. Like
yeah.
Mark, I love you, man. I tremendously love you. You're a great guy. If I need money, I'm calling Risalat. If I need his like last 10K, like it's his last money. Because if I call you, you most likely be like, "Hey, bro, I got a girlfriend, man. It's hard," and I don't blame you for that. That's okay. But in Islam, there is that we go that extra mile for each other that I don't see any other. I'll backtrack. I see Jewish community do the same, and I do see some really
Christian community as well, yeah.
Christian communities. Some Christian communities do,
And
not all, but some within the sects they do. But definitely Jewish community, I do the same thing. So I'll be honest there. But I think that's the beauty of religion, where it's like, I'll give you an example. I met Kamron, Maksat, Yunus, Risalat, and I can Omar, and I can go on and on. Not the Barbara Omar, I have another Omar. So I can go on and on about these guys that I have those friendships with. It's guys that every Friday I go to mosque with them. Every time they're at my place, Yunus is coming to my place. He's my friend. He's coming to my place right now. We're gonna pray together. When it's Ramadan, we break fast together. Like, it's almost majority of our movements and things we do are at sync. We pray at the same time, right? It gives a stronger sense of brotherhood that I just don't see Stoicism offer. And if Stoicism is about strengths, I feel Islam has those concepts of Stoicism, a lot of them, to be honest, because many things you describe we already have in Islam, and on top of that we're adding the cherry, which is the strong community that I don't really see. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, great point. Stoicism isn't a community. 100% agree with that. Okay, but guess what is a community? The bodybuilding community. So get jacked. No, I'm kidding. No. But I'm serious. Actually, the bodybuilding community.
It's true though.
No, it's true. How about this? The climbing community, the dancing community, the filmmaking community. There are other communities out there with interests that are not solely on a religion. So to say that Islam is special, that it is the only community, is just is wrong.
But you can't really compare. You're comparing
just to add on real quick. Sorry.
All good, bro.
Rissalad's just getting ready.
Dedicating. Yeah, I know. Rissalad's quick with it, man. I gotta beat him to it sometimes.
Go for it.
It's serving your social duty, right? So once you find your actual social duty, whatever that may be for your own perception, we're all different, right? Then you'll find your community, right? Once you peak and you embrace all the teachings of Stoicism and you start peaking at your whatever it is you've chosen as your social duty, right? Then you'll find your community. If not, build one yourself, man.
Exactly.
So I guess.
Well, let Rissalad, please.
Okay, thank you. Bro, I agree with most of the things you guys are saying. You know, but what Anar said about the community part, beautifully said. You know, it should be short. It should be put out there. It was a beautiful moment. But you're right. Communities have pros and cons. You know, all that. Yada yada, and sure, Stoicism is an individualistic practice and everything, but I think we're missing the point here. You know, I agree with the tenets of Stoicism that you guys are talking about, and I respect you guys for that. You know, and I'm learning from that as well. Especially this guy works 2 times a day, man. You know, that's intense for 70 days. 70 days, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I'm going triple digits soon, baby.
Inshallah, I'm not stopping either. Well, one time a day. I can't do 2.
Baby
steps, keep it up.
But bro, one thing is that, look, so this is about Stoicism, talking about cultivation of the self, of the character, of the body, the mind. But when you die, that's it. Yeah. But Islam is a continuation of your whole thing before you came here and after. Where else are you getting that thing? Like that's not Stoicism isn't telling you what's going to help you in your afterlife.
Yeah, exactly.
Islam is offering you that, plus it has Stoicism in it.
Absolutely. So I can make that same argument because although my views differ from Marco's, right? I'm a self-guided spiritual person. I don't know, whatever you want to call me, right? Crazy, whatever you want to say. So in my sense, I'm not going to go into it, but in my sense, I can embrace both God and Stoicism, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Or a higher power. I shouldn't say God, a higher power. So, and that allows me to see past death and others, but still make every single second count when I'm here.
My view is obviously different in this case. So I'm more of an agnostic Stoicist. And what I view is basically my answer is just, I don't know. And that's a very solid answer, I feel. And nobody knows.
Have you read the Quran? No, that's
No.
not true. So there's no basis for an argument. There's information which you haven't updated yourself with yet, so you should read. So we have a basis for an argument. You can't say nobody knows, because Anar and I and so many people know very clear, definitive answers
Is it
to these questions.
is it scientifically provable that
Yes.
there's an afterlife?
Well, you can make many arguments from a justice point of view, from an
Bro,
aesthetic point of view. Why not?
It's not.
can I jump in?
It's not.
Go for it.
Can I just real quick jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
Science is important. I guess
What's
that's
up,
not
bro?
I love science.
That's
Okay.
But bro,
well, that was great. But I just want to add on to that. I just want to add on to that. So science is important. Yeah. So I want to add on to
Go for
that. So yeah, Stoics differ in how they deal with the afterlife. My stance is very simple. I don't say that there's an afterlife. I don't say that there's no afterlife, but I just say I don't know, because that's the evidence that I think is most strongly appealing to me. There's no scientific evidence of it.
You can't say that. You haven't read the Quran. You haven't. It's
a book is not scientific evidence, bro.
It's information. No.
Harry Potter's real. Are you telling me? Come on, bro.
Well, as a book, it's real, but you're comparing Harry Potter to the Quran. First of all, that's bullshit, you know. And what I'm making a completely different point. What I'm saying is that I study science, and I don't know about you, but I'm not saying you're dumb either. But think about this: like, if you're considering any experiment, data matters. You have to factor in all the data. Quran is an information; it's an uninterrupted information stream that has absolute zero noise, no variance, for so many centuries. If you're not considering that, you're the one who's not scientific. You haven't considered the evidence.
Can I jump
Go for it?
Can I jump in here real quick?
Go for it.
I really look. I'm a science major. I think I'm the only science major. Oh, you're a science major as well.
No, I study arts, bro.
So I'm a science major. I actually have a degree in science, and I think I'm the only science major here. So it's really funny to me, and this is what I don't get. I have an actual degree in science. I studied science for 4 years. I'm not talking out of my ass. I'm really sorry for using this language. But what I don't understand is when people start using science in places where it's inappropriate. Like, you don't use science for things like love,
or religion,
or ethics.
Faith. What faith is a different thing to what is science, right?
And I agree with that. Yeah.
If you try to find a religion, you're trying to find God, my recommendation to every person is this: go by yourself in the room without nobody. Be humble, humble yourself without anyone. You don't need to tell nobody. Just do a prayer. Say, God, even if you don't believe in God, just say, God, if you're there, look, I'm making a step toward you to guide me. I have done that exact same thing. I end up being a Muslim. I know people that did exactly did the same thing. They end up being Jewish. But whatever that is, at least you know that you did make the best choice possible with your own heart, right? Same way as you choose your partner. I think religion should be chosen the same way as you choose your wife. I know it sounds weird, but it is.
It's true.
And Risala, I totally agree with Mr. Halal here. So he is totally right saying that it's a faith. It's not a scientific fact, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I never said it's 100% scientific fact. Full stop. I never said that.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Yeah, but that's not what I said. I'm saying that it's consistent with science, and plus, look, there's this thing in philosophy that beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. If this was beyond a reasonable doubt, we wouldn't be conveying Islam. It would be clear as day and night.
Oh yeah, I would be Muslim. Everybody would be Muslim.
Everybody would be Muslim. That is the test. That is the test. But then that's where faith comes in. That's
call it whatever you want. But I just want to make it clear that it's not scientific fact. It's not based on science. It is based on faith.
Sure. Let's go with it.
But here's the thing. Okay, so I think this was a good discussion. I think we discussed a lot of good points. I think it's almost an hour, so we can start wrapping
up.
As I would rather go consistently weekly sessions as opposed to
an hour is nice. Yeah,
1 hour is nice. So I'd like to get the final words so everyone can have their final words. Artie got to leave soon, so I want to give him the final words first. So Artie, what are your final words? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Stoicism?
Just a couple sentences for you guys. The foundation of Stoic ethics is that good lies in the state of the soul itself, in wisdom and self-control. One must therefore strive to be free of the passions, which they're defined, there's quite a few of them. For the Stoics, reason meant using logic and understanding the processes of nature, the logos, or universal reason inherent in all things. That's my little tidbit. It was a great conversation with you guys today, and I thank you for your time, and thank you to any audience members as well.
All right,
Thank you.
Risalat, I guess you're next.
Yeah, I would just say that I agree with the Stoicism, the information, the knowledge, the wisdom you guys have shared. And I really believe that we're trying to get to the truth from the different sides of the same mountain, you know? And it's just that the missing piece here is that I really urge you guys to read the Quran. Don't just think that, oh, it's like religious book. If I read it, I'll become Muslim. Or don't put it on a pedestal. Read it as just a book, and you can disagree with it after you've read it. You know, but include that information and then make better arguments as well. I'm not saying you don't make better arguments. I've been challenged. You've been challenged. We do this pretty good, but you got to read the Quran, man. Like it's a book. You have to. So if you don't have that information, you're just making information based on word of mouth, things you've heard, and there's really no basis for an argument, for a serious argument, in my opinion. So, as a brother, I encourage you to read the Quran, parts
I'm
of
gonna, I'm
it,
gonna, I'm gonna buy him Quran. And
I'll
inshallah.
read one. Absolutely.
I'll buy
I
the
had a Muslim roommate for a
Okay.
year.
You have one?
I had a Muslim roommate for 1 year. We had some crazy good talks. But yeah, no, I'll
Oh,
definitely read it.
you have a Quran?
No, not yet.
We'll
Okay,
give you one. We'll give you
I can gift you one, and then Marco I can be gifted by an art. That's cool.
Sure, I'm down.
Okay.
I'm
I see
always
them. I
interested.
see them both all the time.
Secret
Bro,
Santa.
let me get some good deeds too, you know?
Yeah.
Selfish.
Sure. So I guess my closing will be that Stoicism and why I really choose it to guide my life and why I choose to practice it. And it's an evolving thing. It's not a thing that you just jump into. Same with Islam, right? It's an evolving thing where you're not perfect every day, but you try to be. It's based on reason, which I really love. It's based on rationality. It practices personal responsibility, emotional control, and acceptance, which is really important to me. So overall, I just really love how it doesn't touch on anything unscientific, and that is a great barrier to me in religion. And I would open anybody interested in Stoicism to Google it, learn more about it, because it is such an important thing. If you do feel like attaching yourself to a religion is scientifically hindering and goes against your values as a rational, reasonable person that believes in science, then I would highly suggest that you look at Stoicism, and it's a great way to practice religion, but only the parts that serve you, and it's flexible. Yeah.
Great sales.
Great.
So
Anar,
I would like,
Mr. Halal, go.
yeah, I would like to end this with saying there are no atheists in the foxholes, and saying that in the moments when you're actually scared, in the moments when life gonna grab you by the balls, there is a lot of benefit in believing in God. There's a reason why many of those gladiators, MMA fighters, men of virtue, men who are putting themselves in danger, men who are not gonna cower and run away from a battlefield, men who are gonna throw themselves into a battlefield. There's a reason why many of those men believed in God. If you want to, I believe, if you want to be a really strong man who can handle fear, who can handle stress, who's not gonna break down, they should believe in God, as it's an additional layer of strength, no matter what it is. And I think making science your God, science won't be there for you, in the moments of danger and fear and in your own head. But God will be there for you. And I would like to read this verse of Quran. I think it's beautiful. It says, I also would like to finish with saying I read many books, Right? I read Old Testament, I read the New Testament, I read Hindu Upanishads, I read the book called Conversation with God. But I think Quran is the only book I know or I read so far that where God speaks in the first person directly to you. Like it's Quran is literally God speaking to you directly, whereas Old Testament, New Testament, or Upanishads, those are just stories. Quran is God speaking to you directly, and it's the only book I know that is speaking so directly that it ends up having 2 billion followers today on the planet. So I would like to read a couple of verses from the Quran that I think are beautiful, and I would like to end on this. Verily,
I want one sentence from me. Sorry, also to end. Just go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, verily, in the remembrance of God do hearts find rest. Therefore, remember me, and I will remember you. This is from Quran.
Okay.
Yeah, you go, and then I want to talk about Turkish situation.
Yeah, yeah. So one final thing, I just want to say that Stoicism, unlike Islam, is to become a Muslim, you need to say that, you told me, Mr. Hall, there what it takes to become a Muslim. Stoicism isn't anything that you become. It's a person can be Stoic, just anybody can be Stoic. So a Muslim, a Christian, a Scientologist, anybody can be Stoic, and that's really amazing to me. One of the biggest, one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, George St. Pierre, it doesn't describe himself as a Stoic, but he is a Stoic by the way that he presents himself. So he doesn't even have to say it; he's just a Stoic.
I would like to read some of the comments we have on YouTube. NR is a top G. Keep it up, guys. I like this topic. They really fit in today's world. Very high IQ argument. So
All
thank you,
right.
whoever you are.
Thank you.
Famous. And okay, so I would like to end this with reminding you guys that there was a huge earthquake on the border between Turkey and Syria. It's 7.8 points. It's extremely, there's over 1,500 dead people today that we know of. The
Whoa.
count is probably
Yeah.
even more. You guys can Google and see the videos, and people in Turkey and Syria, they need you, especially in that border. So we'll be putting a donation URL and link to the description of this video, and you guys can go ahead and donate over there if you have some extra money. Thank you, everybody. Peace
All
be upon
right.
you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Oh, one last comment. There are a lot of good donation going on for Turkey earthquake help. Donate, guys. Even a $10 will make a difference. Allah will 10 times this deed, inshallah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Let's call it a
Thank
night.
you.
Bye-bye.
Next Monday. Bye-bye.
It's Monday. Bye-bye.